is this the last one of the series, I guess?
No, there's one more next week.
Who's that gonna be?
Young woman from Wapakoneta. Oh, Michelle Walker. Thank you,
Oh, yeah.
young mind.
I just got excited that she's from Wapak.
Oh, that's true.
I
Yeah.
used to, my in-laws lived in Lima.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
Wapak was like, oh, Roman's here. I could do that drive in my head.
What? I did.
Paint. Oh my
I
God.
did, didn't I?
What's that?
I did say I wanted to look at it.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would recommend you don't do that.
Hey, Lisa.
Hey, how are you today?
Hanging in here. I've got my walking in for today, I can tell you that.
I'm sharing your live video.
Oh, cool.
Hey, Lisa.
Yes, I
Another
will
Lisa?
listen tonight.
Lisa, okay.
It's Lisa Godfrey.
So for those of you just joining us, we're doing this Facebook Live, and also Amanda to my right is doing a time lapse. So that'll be fun.
I've never seen one of those. And I've never been filmed before, so
Well,
it's going to be interesting.
this is your lucky day.
No, I'm kind of tickled about it. Yeah. Yeah, I've got a friend out in Colorado who wants to watch. Wish I could get up early. I'll put stuff in right there on High Street, just whip around and like, yeah, I'm with the FBI, man. Load my car. As all of you know, oil paint can fly through the air and land on stuff. Can you see the painting too? You could move toward it if you want.
Is he,
Can,
you want that thing to be visible?
well, like, yeah, so you can see what I'm working from.
Do you hear that, Mary?
Come around and adjust the paint a little bit, so we can see the reference a little bit. You're gonna have to tell me which way to go. Just
Well, see how it
forward.
looks on this thing. Bring it forward. Maybe if you tilted it toward the camera, get it.
Other direction. This way.
Try bringing it close to this edge. See what happens. Can you see it now?
That's better.
I mean, can then.
Okay.
Well, maybe the camera can go on this for a minute. And then,
Well, it's static, it's right on the,
okay.
but Amanda's got the second camera on there, so
All right.
we'll get it all. Perfect. Thank you, sir. So Michael will explain to us what he's going to do. So he's using it as reference, but he's going to make it larger and so he's going to use some color. Mike, I'll let you explain what it is you're going to do once you hit the
Yeah.
board.
We sort of started, I guess. I think. Okay. Before I start any painting, usually I try to work out what the color structure is going to be beforehand, you know, how to sort of like an abstraction of the color. And I get it ready, so when I paint, I don't have to, like, it's like reaching for pastels or something. I've got them lined up in some kind of order. And it's usually based on a triad of some kind, not an equilateral triad. That is not like, say, yellow, blue, red. That's what they always call the primaries and such. I use more or less like a color chord. So I'll start at red and I'll count 4 steps, 3 steps to like a yellow orange, and then the next 2 steps up are 5. Okay, that's 1, 3, 5. That's a chord, major chord. So those colors become my center. In this case, my key color is going to be this magenta red violet, okay? And I've got them set up. You can see that, oh, this is going on. Get it right there. Okay, so basically it's dark, value 4, dark down here, or you just call it high dark. 6 right in the middle, okay? A little bit of green there I haven't touched yet. You can see that I've also neutralized some of the colors, taken some of their saturation down, because you don't really need. Actually, in painting nature, the duller the. I've heard this from galleries say, "Oh, I hate these outdoor painting," and it wasn't mine they were talking about, but they were telling me about somebody else, and I said, "Well, what do you mean? I mean, they're," and they said, "Well, the colors are so dull." I said, "Well, that's how colors look in nature. They're not like green trees and stuff." You know, I like to use the analogy when I'm teaching is that, you know, just because they make an orange that you can paint the nose cone of a rocket with, doesn't mean you're going to use it for anything. Same with a bus, or, you know, we have many, many more colors that are used for different things, but it's really hard to tame them. So you have to temper them, you know, in the sense of the Roman or Latin word, you know, tempering and balancing and, you know, organizing. That's what I'm after here. So.
And so you took colors right out of the tube, and then you're modifying them by adding white or black or gray to them?
Yeah, and I'm also, I've also got colors that comes out at value 6. That's a mixed color. I mix and tube a lot of my own colors, so I have them ready. It's basically, it's old school stuff. It's based on, you know, some of the things that George Bellows and Robert Henry were working on and that kind of stuff. The most modern version of what I'm talking about was a really elegant solution for color, but I think it was too hard for instructors to teach, because they came to our school with free samples and we just took them. We're like, what the hell are these? You know, Liquitex modular color. You got to go back in time on that one. If you remember buying art supplies in the 70s or early 80s, you remember coming across like modular 7. You're like, what is this? It just would say red 7 or red 8 or so and so. And what that gave you is when you have colors that are of equal value, you can mix in between them and get a rich color. It doesn't jump too high or too low, and that's usually a problem with folks, because they'll introduce something and it'll just be the wrong note, and they'll keep it, try to work around it. But and I'll probably make a dog's dinner out of this. Hell, I don't know. But I can show you like how. Here's the gray. You can see it, I guess, a little bit. There it is mixed with the green. See, it's knocking that green down quite a bit. If I mix it further and kind of go quote unquote towards a complement or a near complement, I get this kind of cool looking, you know, gray green, whatever. I've got some. Oh, look at that. Didn't expect that to happen. I do have some blue violet, although it's not really part of my thing, but I can use it to make some darks with. Oh, so you can't see it down there, can you? All right, let's try this again. So introducing black to it, and I've got a dark red here. I can make a sort of a series of darker colors that I might need, assuming I'll need. So what I'm going to do today is take this painting. It's a spot I know well. I could probably paint it from memory. I've been there so many times. I mean, literally since I was a kid. I had the advantage of living in suburbia and having a farm next door to me with all the dirt roads and all that stuff. It was Ohio State's farms, right? On Lane Avenue and North Star, bounded by Kenny at the bottom. And I used to live on the corner of Ashtown Road and North Star, and we could see like Lazarus from our house. Now it's got this big honking, ugly freaking building. It's like you couldn't have built that down on campus somewhere, you know. But it's like I thought, wow, any place I want to paint, they tear down. But there are fields on the other side of Lane Avenue that belong to the OSU Agricultural School, and that's sort of a thing where you just kind of go there when you don't think anybody's around. It's not really allowed to be there. But I found a spot where they turn machines around and have utility. And I thought, well, if I'm sitting out here, you know, after 5, maybe I won't get in too much trouble. So there's fields that I use that, you know, it's the, I should say that when you're outdoor painting, you need to really be aware of where you are. That is, what direction you're facing and where you're standing. Because in relation to the sun, because the sun goes over your shoulders, you might say, up and down to the west, and it makes an arc. And as it goes through that arc, it changes color. Because in the morning, it's kind of yellowish. In the middle of the day, it's kind of neutral. And then it starts getting more orange, down into red, and down into magenta after it kind of goes down. And so if you know where you are in relation to that, that already helps give you shadows and things like that if the sun's out, you know. It helps you calculate where you are. But I think for me, it's just that I've always had this funny feeling that I was meant to be on latitude 40, because our street was just about on the 40th parallel, okay? And that's a landing path for Columbus, what do you call it, the airport, Port Columbus, John Glenn, sorry. Before they built a lot of bigger buildings on campus, when I was a kid, planes would just come roaring in hot and fast. I mean, you could smell the kerosene sometimes because they'd be big 707s, you know, and they would just rip over. What they did, though, in the process was leave clouds high. There's also planes that are flying high that you really can't see the plane, but you can see the contrail. So they're up about 35,000 feet or something like that. As those kind of drop down, they begin to change the nature. They spread out a little bit and stuff. So what I'm going to have today is the sun's going over the horizon here. I'm using this as my basis, the road going up the hill, and then the line of trees is at the top of it. But the sun's kind of gone down, and what's floating in the sky, the clouds, if they're in front of the sun, they're gray, right? But if the sun drops to a certain angle where it's actually in the red-violet zone. So it goes up above your head, hits those clouds, and turns them like outrageous pinkish red. There's been some amazing sunsets lately, you know, it's like, and I hate it because it's like, I'm so tired. I've been in the studio since 8:30 this morning. You know, it's like, but anyways, they're hard to paint actually from light because they're so vivid. You tend to over saturate everything. But if I'm wanting to paint a sunset, I usually prepare what I call a sky panel. Have any of you ever heard of that? That's and I use it on this. That's a panel where I kind of know what direction I'm looking in. So I'll have a basic sort of blue brushed across and then fading into a sort of a gray of one value or another. And those I can take out. I have like different views. Now, if I'm looking at the south, you know, during the daytime, when you're looking into the sun, you get silhouettes. It's, you know, if you're looking at the sun in the morning, you get kind of the sunset feeling, but it changes real fast. The sun comes up fast, but it sets slowly. I'm not sure why. But my favorite time is in the afternoon when the sun's arcing down. And painters have always called this the golden hour, you know, where things are lit up with that beautiful sort of orange-red light. And, you know, usually people are in traffic going, I don't know what we get home. But that time of day, it's a wonderful time to paint because it just, the color kind of effuses everything. As a matter of fact, right now, if you go out to Granville or that area, you know, where there's farming going on, they're chopping down the old corn and whatever, right? And what they do, though, they chop so much of it off that it leaves like this haze in the air of corn dust, right? When the sun hits that, it becomes this impossible thing to paint because it's like a pink haze. Yeah, it is, but it's like, oh, I can't put a pink haze in there. So I'll get started here finally. Get a little medium on my brush. Usually outside, for Christ's sake. Usually outside, I don't recommend people using mediums because they can get real sloppy real fast. But I'm gonna do some blending on this before I get into I'm gonna block into major parts. And I can't get this thing open. Well, that was a skill then.
Michael, have you done anything to the surface you're gonna paint on yet? Or is that like straight out of the package?
Well, actually, it is kind of straight out of the package. This is aluminum, ABS aluminum, which means it's aluminum on both sides, and then it has ABS plastic inside, which is a fairly strong plastic. I'm more and more enthused with aluminum because it's lightweight, and you got to shoot it or something to make a dent in it. And I prefer actually a rigid surface if I can. And the problem is when it gets big, it gets to be a problem. But a rigid surface I like because anything on canvas is going to eventually move and crack. Canvas is like a pair of jeans or something. So for big things, I'll use canvas, but increasingly for like this size and stuff, this is 24 inches square. I'll go with the harder surface. What I did to this today was I just buffed it, you might say, with some sandpaper to open up the pores a little bit. It comes with this super strong white. They make signs out of this, on the freeway. You ever see one of those, chip and fade? That's part of this, the beauty of it. It's so stable. But you can gesso it if you want to. If you want the linen feel, you can glue linen or muslin. That's like something you can get like at a fabric store, a very light fabric with a nice grain in it. It would not be stretchable, but it can be glued to a panel and you get this really fine grain. I know a lot of people like that. But this will be really smooth actually. This damn thing, I'm gonna crack it open. So it's happening I keep thinking more people are gonna come, but I guess I'm wrong. I just saw some and said, oh, I'll be down there.
But there are people watching online too.
Huh?
There are people watching online.
Oh, I forgot about that, yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. It's the dancing bear here. Having trouble with this stupid freaking lid. Still not working. Oh, wait, there it is. Childproof lid on something a child would never have in their hand, right? I mean, I don't have any children, so I never worry about it, but the problem with mediums is they get sticky and they dry on the lid, and it can be murder to get it off. But what I'm going to do is just get it a little, not if I get this thing open, for Christ's sake. Let's just give it a little coat. Maybe I can give it to Eric and he can. Have any luck opening bottles lately?
A little bit. Usually
See if
hot
you can
water.
get this thing open for me. I'm going nuts here.
Yikes.
Oh, this guy's strong.
Yeah.
It looks like it's glued to itself. Well, we may just skip that part. Okay. So oh, it's open. Great.
There.
Super. Thank you.
Now I can leave.
Yeah. You can watch it on video. Oh, you hear that? So I'll put a little bit of, I'm saying when I move this over to the table. Now that you've seen the palette, I need to get it over here.
Michael, just so you know, the camera battery lasts about an hour and a half.
Okay, how far in?
So we'll get everything we can.
Okay. Well, let's go, because I can go pretty quick when I have to.
And what is that exactly that?
It's, this is a, this is a medium by that, I think it's called the Frankenbourgeois. It's a copal medium. It doesn't have any alkyd in it or anything. I really don't recommend alkyd medium anymore. I used to, but be honest, all it is really, by the way, is just linseed oil with a big dryer added to it that gels it up. And the reason I stopped using it is because there's questions about it delaminating from a surface where it peels off. There's questions of longevity. The one reason too is that my studio, and I like to call it, is a solvent-free studio. We don't use any turpentine or mineral spirits. To wash a brush, I squeeze out the paint, put it in safflower oil until I'm ready to really clean it, squeeze out the safflower oil, and then wash it with Murphy's oil. So that's all I have. And we use there's a type of linseed oil you can get that's fairly fast drying, and it's purified. It's not like the stuff you buy in the store so much. The average art store doesn't carry it. A place in New York is where I buy it from. Well, I get it actually from Jerry's Artorama, just mail order. It's called Chelsea Studios. Chelsea Studios cold pressed purified linseed oil, and what that means is that linseed oil, the thing that makes linseed oil yellow is not necessarily oil itself. There's vegetation in the oil that's left in there that hasn't been strained out. Today's linseed oil is actually made to be food grade, okay? But when you do that, you change the structure of it, the polymers and stuff, and it's completely different from what, like, say, Rembrandt used, or a guy painting a coach or something, It didn't want they strained it several times and put it in the light and so forth. And you'd be surprised how well it dries and so forth just by itself. This medium is nice, though. It's got a nice feel to it. Sometimes these go too fast, So what I'm looking at where I am, I'm looking up sort of a road in the fields that have been harvested, I guess. So it's, kind of like Bob Ross, isn't it? I could tell you what's there, but you'd be like, really? Like, well, there's Berkshire, and the so-and-sos live there. It's like, but because of where we were located, it seemed like, I had this gigantic fields that I could go play in. And the sunsets are off the hook, because you're looking uphill and the sun's going down.
Do you remember when the baby animal farm was there?
No, when was that?
When they
Jeez.
built West Campus?
There was really?
There were barns on that side, yeah.
I remember the lambs and or the sheep and stuff, because people occasionally would get intoxicated and ride them. Did you know anybody did that? Yeah, they get busted in 2 minutes.
I just remember my mom taking me there in the spring to see the baby.
Oh, that's cool.
barns.
If there was a barn or something, or an official-looking building, I usually stayed away from it.
On the other side from where Waterman Farm is.
Oh, on Waterman Farm side. Oh, right. They may still have that. Okay, time to change the brush. I have a habit, some people also have this, of staying with the same brush. Yeah. Even if it's dirty, what the hell. I actually know somebody that says, oh no, it's actually awesome to use because the color gets a uniformity or something to it, but that's a little specious, I think. My feeling for it anyways. Now, in a lot of ways, when I do paint outdoors, and I like to call it outdoor painting, I really can't stand that phrase anymore, plein air. It's been, I was painting outside back when nobody called it anything except like stupid or something. I actually had a teacher suggest it to me in graduate school, and I thought, what do you think I am, like some Sunday painter or something? I thought he was, dissing me because it was like, paint outdoors. Why, I'm not even painting landscapes. I'm painting shapes against shapes and all, graduate school talk. Bullshit, mostly. But I was kind of insulted that he suggested it. I was like, what? And I'll tell you something, when I first really went outside, I'd done a little bit of it when I was in Washington, trying to use acrylics. That wasn't smart. But it struck me as like, well, that's not really, art, modern art or anything. Until I realized it's like, you'll never be modern art. You'll always be stuck somewhere else. Realist painters tend to get written off pretty fast by most critics. It's just like, they think it's clever, but they don't think it's much value as art, you might say. The thing is in the marketplace, generally speaking, if you're a painter, you tend to do better with something more figurative, but that's just for certain markets, I should say. Okay, let's have some fun here. Let's put some yellow in here.
This is the front look if you like.
Okay, so obviously my sun's going down over there. What happens then is you've got this sort of yellowish gray haze in many cases that comes up from the light. So because I know the sun's down here, I know that this arc is about like this, the rays and stuff. I can imagine the sky as a dome, right? And the sun's pathway has come down this way. So I think you need to feel the perspective, understand the space of what the sky is. It's not just like flat and you stick clouds on it like, whatever. And clouds are hard. I mean, they're easy and they're hard at the same time. I'm trying the hard ones right now, so that's like my dumb mistake. But let's see if we get some of this
There
here.
are a lot of clouds in this show.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Well, yeah, they're great to put in a painting. It's like, ooh, look, clouds. And that way people say, oh, that looks like someplace I've been. I've noticed, I think a lot of painters have noticed this over the years, that people, when they're interested in collecting a piece, a lot of times attach something that you didn't put in there necessarily. They'll think, oh, that looks like France or something. And I had at my first show, that big show at Kenny's, there was a woman looking at something and she was really hot to buy it. And it was a field over here at Kenny Road that I had painted from life out there. Before they built all that crap for that new building, you could just pull off the road and sit there or sit in the fields and paint, and you got sort of the horizon goes up, because the plane for Lane Avenue goes down to the river, and then the one for Ohio State, it rises back up. So you can see, pretty far away. Anyways, I thought, well, yeah, of course it's Ohio State, can't you tell? And she said, it just reminds me of England. And I'm like, oh. She says, do you mind if I buy it? I tell people it's from England. It's like, and you call it anything you want. You know, it's like, really? I totally don't care. Okay. This is what I'm talking about, this sort of grayish yellow that you get. You think, well, that seems kind of dull so far. Jump up here, get some blue. Now, normally blue sky, quote unquote, on an average day is about value 8. It's almost at the top of the scale, okay? But there are times when you can use a little bit lower value, like 7, which would be normally if you were looking straight up. Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm painting straight up, can't you tell? It drops down to, like, you know, a darker blue. So I'm going to introduce that up here.
You tend to stand or sit when you paint?
Well, I'll tell you, I generally like to sit because I have arthritis now. Yay! It's like, can't you find something to do that would, you know, a shot or something? And then I'm on other medications where I can't take, like IV. All I can take is Tylenol. That's like taking spit, you know, it doesn't do anything. But yeah, I'll stand when I'm working on a big thing. I thought for today that would just be as easy. I want to keep my eye line. If you're copying something, it's good to kind of be, you know, where your eye, you know, my eye line is here, it's right there, you know. But it's a little bit of a stretch. You should actually never really have to raise your arm above your shoulder, to tell you the truth. That's why when you stand, you know, you're at a better angle. And I may stand here in a second. I mean, it's not like I'm paralyzed or anything, but I had to walk this morning. I think I'm going to resign my account from Huntington. God, who puts in a parking place that's like 5 stories tall and they don't put an elevator in it? It's like, really? I've had an account with you for 45 years. I think I'm going to change. But yeah, it just was like one thing after another. It was like, oh, I go into one parking place, get all the way in there, and the guy says, oh, we don't have room for vans. And I'm like, okay. And it's like, you know, 20 feet wide. He says, you'll have to back out. And I'm like, oh. There's somebody waiting behind me. It was just like, you know, crazy. A common occurrence. Now here I'm not using very much medium at all. I want the drag of the paint. I want to make it a little bit, a stroke that kind of stays where it is, you might say. Because I plan to do some stuff on top of it. Don't leave, there'll be more fun.
Michael, how many years have you been painting?
Well, I always was one of those kids that drew, and I painted with watercolors and stuff when I was a kid. I think I seriously got interested in, I mean, I didn't really want to like be an artist. Who the hell wants to be an artist? I mean, honest to God, you know, but the job in the Beatles is already taken, you know. It's like, I want to be like that. But in high school, I started putting more time into it. You know, the work is the doing, and the doing is the learning, right? And honestly, you just have to paint a lot to get better. And so I started getting pretty good with watercolors. And then, you know, I did an oil painting in art class. And I thought, this is pretty good. And the art teacher actually told my mother, which was amazing, you know, you should think about him going to art school. You know, it's like, yeah, the economy's in the toilet right now. Why not go there? That's the joy of being 18, though. You don't know it's bad. Hell, when I graduated, it was like 1978. It was like, but, you know, I managed to get through it, and I managed to keep painting. I had a teacher tell me, he said, if you're still doing this in 5 years, he said, you know, you've got a shot at doing it all the time, I guess. He says, but if you're up there at 10 years still painting, he said, there's no hope for you. You've lost yourself to it. And it's like, oh, great. And I really did mark that 10th anniversary thing with like, oh, geez, I've been painting 10 years. I must be good. But the problem with painting is like, every one is not really what you want to some degree. I mean, you can get real nicely satisfied with stuff sometimes, but you always feel like, wow, the next one's going to be better, you know, whatever. I can't see if I'm hitting that or not, sort of a reflection. But yeah, I try to do a little bit of it every day if I can. There's other stuff I do, though, in my practice, is doing research and things. I mentioned the thing about George Bellows and Robert Henry. Well, I've managed to get, you know, go right to the source. Get, you know, they always. I want to mention something. Henry and Bellows always, they talk about Hardesty Murata, and usually most art history books is like, was a guy that made paint, blah blah blah, and that's it. You know, the thing was, this guy invented a system of paints where they had tints and semi-neutrals, and you could lay it all out and get your color, and you could plot it and all this jazz. And those Henry, Sloan, Bellows, Denman Ross, Arthur Pope up at Harvard were all interested in this kind of idea. And as a matter of fact, the James Hopkins exhibit we had recently, I found out that that's what he used. He knew Henry as a friend, and Henry said, man, you got to try this because your students will be able to hit colors with some reasonable accuracy, you know. So it was taught all around the country, and I thought, well, how come I can't find anything on this guy? Well, I managed to get into archives at different museums and universities, and it's actually pretty neat. You know, how much does it cost to scan everything? $90, fine. And you get like 200 pages of manuscript, or in my case, I found an actual Murata brochure. I thought I'd found a Rosetta Stone. It was like, hey, how you doing? I couldn't believe I'd actually seen it, and I realized why people had trouble with it, because the main thing he does that really screws people up is he calls hue a sort of a semi-neutral of a color, right? So that's not the nomenclature we generally use. It's like hue, the color, value, how light or dark, and chroma, how strong or weak the color is. But if that's the way you were trained and you look at that and you see hue, you're like, well, this is all wrong. So there was no, at that time, real standard yet. So he probably confused the blazes out of people by saying hue, and they're like, well, no, that's not hue, you know. But it's got its points as a system, and it's fun to actually find the actual thing that that was published that these guys were looking at. He didn't write a book or anything, but Henry especially and Sloan did a lot of practice with it, and you might say notation, so to speak. Okay, so my sky, I think I need to blend it a little bit. Big bossy out here. One thing about a panel sometimes, it's getting coverage can be hard because it's pretty slippery. I'll tell you what, if you like to draw a lot before you paint, panels are a blast, especially these things. It's like you don't want to paint over it because you can draw so well on the flat surface. Gesso board and clay board are similar. The thing about clay board, though, if you're going to use it for oil painting, make sure you give it a coat of shellac or something, because otherwise your paint keeps sinking in. You're like, it, kind of holds your paint and drags and everything else. But if you seal it with something like shellac, this regular old shellac, spray cans are available now, it'll cut that absorbency. And a lot of painters do that even with canvas. They'll seal their drawing with shellac, which I think is better than fixative, honestly. But you can make a fixative out of eggs and water. Did you know that? I'll show you that some other time. But it's just a old school kind of thing. In the Civil War, get that, get out of there. In the Civil War, they used to use skim milk. They'd float over their drawings, and the casein in the milk would seal the drawing for them. And so Winslow Homer used to do that. So now I'm laying in some clouds. I'm going to have the right value on them now. Here's the best secret I learned about clouds. When you're painting clouds, the shadow side of the cloud, the gray, whatever, is going to be exactly the same value as the sky around it. And it sounds, but when you do it right, it just fades off, So what I'm trying to do here is get the shadows about the tone of the sky. And what I'm doing is, clouds tend to flow and like often in groups, or in this case, it's like today's a crappy day outside as far as the sky, because there's nothing to see. Overcast days are just the worst, I think. They're the hardest to paint too, just throwing that out there. So it's like, you want to go out and paint on a day like this, be prepared to suffer. But like today, those clouds will probably break up when, because they only go so high. So you'll have this opening at the bottom where the sun will set, and then it'll set the sky on fire. And it could be a really nice thing. That's kind of what this is. They're more like leftover contrails to some degree, but it's a group of clouds floating in sort of a formation, you might say. And they do flow in groups. If there's one cloud just sitting there, it's kind of weird. But if there's a cloud there's going to likely be one up here or something. So, can you guys see the painting? It looks awful, awful white. But let me get a few more of those in there just to. By not using a medium on that sky part, for the most part, I have a surface that I can paint into. And that's that brush hair right in the middle of the painting. I had somebody send the painting back once because there were brush hairs on it. I said, well, there's brush hairs from sergeants too, Carell, everybody else. And they're like, yeah, but you're not any of those guys. Can you take them off? So I just scraped them off and, cursed the painting because I don't want to see this painting again, and I don't like the people that bought it. But it's bad. I mean, it's hard enough to sell them, but when they come back, it's like, what? I don't want to do that. I've already spent the money. Okay, can you see? There's clouds.
Do you mind if I photograph?
No, can you?
Okay.
Yeah, jump in. Yeah, what time are we on right now?
It's 11:55.
What's that?
11:55.
So we have
It's an hour.
an hour. Okay.
Or whatever you want.
Why did I think it was 1 o'clock?
Because you couldn't find a parking
Huh?
place and you were panicked.
I transpose numbers sometimes now. It's like I ordered some frame, and I swear to God I ordered the right size. I got a 15 by 20, right? And I got a 15 by 30, which is like, what? And some other weird size, and I thought, it's too much bother to send them back, so I'll just order some more. But either the person there is like a non-reader at the shop. Oh, is that a two or a free? But yeah, it was a little inconvenient, a little embarrassing Uh, well, I'll tell you, if I walk into Blix, it's like I'm liable to buy something. But or Utrecht, I mean, it's almost the same price, right? I'm trying to make that less distinct up there. I don't want you to pay too much attention to the horizon, just that it's there. I get them from, well, it's actually the same company. I always suspected it was. Artist Warehouse Supply or Artist Supply Warehouse Express. If you join as a member, they call it like being a teacher member or something, but if you join, it's like $90 like Amazon or something. You get really great discounts. I mean, seriously, this oil that I'm talking about, the Chelsea Studio oil, it's like $87 a quart, right? I was like, no way. But I buy it for $35. So then it becomes reasonable. It's still expensive, but it's a good product, and I'm not, worried about losing money on it. But I like Utrecht paints a lot. I've been using them since I was in school. We discovered Utrecht back when they used to just have one catalog and you had to mail order everything, and it was like Christmas because everything was so expensive to us, and we had no money. Not like kids now at college, like own an apartment, car, and everything. I mean, I couldn't imagine living in a place that nice. I'm amazed they make places that nice for college students. My idea of an apartment would be like an enclosed, enameled concrete thing with 2 concrete benches and a concrete table, so you could, with a drain in the middle that you could just wash out at the end of the year, or a bar like that. I think would be good. But anyways, so I'm kind of making this tree kind of one of my focal points. Usually when light and dark meets in a landscape, it's a 2-value difference, okay? Like if the sky's 8 and the trees against it are going to be 6, not like black, like you would think, but it's a kind of a neat thing how they can change. Like we'll get some clouds in here and you'll see what I mean. Get some color. Oh, there we go. Got a few small. I actually use like little brushes too, but you can't beat these. Family Dollar, baby. $4.50 for 5.
But the bristles fall out.
Huh?
But the bristles.
They do, yeah. You can actually do things to prevent it though. You can pour a little line of glue into the ferrule and take tape, like duct tape, or actually that stretchy tape for what's it called? It doesn't leak. I don't know what the guy in the boat with.
Oh, a monster, is it?
No, that's not it. Okay,
Gorilla.
Let's see if our combined memory can remember. But that, you seal the end of the brush because that's where the problems happen when it gets wet and stuff. But there's a hair on there, you just sand it off or pick it off later with a knife. It's not the worst thing in the world, I think. But let's see what happens here if I can get this just so. Let's get it started up here. I think that's working. But I like, using big hardware store brushes. I'm kind of rough on tools, to tell you the truth. I believe in good craftsmanship and everything, but I wish I had someone around the studio to wash brushes or something, I could, get an intern. That'd be, all I want to do is hey man, you got a lot of guitars. Can I do this? Or tell me how to get a show. It's like, well, I'm a little young. I don't want to worry about that. But they get kind of expected nowadays. When I was a student, 40 years ago, we had gallery owners come into it and say, don't come to us until you're painting for 5 or 10 years, And I'm like, what? Really? It's a little more loose nowadays because there's so many places to show, I guess. Columbus is a big art center, I think that's a joke, but kind of a sad one actually. there are a lot more alternative spaces to show in. Uh, You know, try not to fall for the restaurant thing, because that's a con. You know, oh, we'll show your paintings, okay, great exposure. It's like, nope, it doesn't work. The only place I think that does it well is Barcelona Restaurant, because they'll put them up, they'll put them on the webpage, they'll talk about who you are, and then they'll have an opening for you. And it's like, just invite your friends and you got all this free stuff. But I think they do a nice job of promoting it. A lot of the people that work there are art students too, so that kind of helps.
You know what, wasn't Michael Bourdain a server there?
He might have been.
Yeah. And they showed his art, and now
He's over at Hammond's. Well, yeah, I mean, the idea is that there's a lot of big rollers come in there. A lot, I don't know, you know. What's a big roller in Columbus nowadays anyways, you know? I mean, there are some. There are definitely. There's the old money, and then there's the people who sold their companies for 26 million and are like 42. Like, yeah, I always wish I could have done something like that. People, the buying has been slow in general around here, I think, lately. I don't know why. But when it gets slow, the blame tends to fall on you, not on the art. You get really testy about it, you might say. So you see what I'm doing? I'm kind of lighting the bottom of these clouds. Now, where a cloud maybe covers over the sun in front of it, I'm going to make it a little darker. And maybe even darken that horizon a little bit using a little grayed out lavender.
Did Andre or Henry or whatever you call him, did he use the big brushes from the dime store?
Well, in those days, any brush was usually made really well. The quality's gone out the window nowadays for brushes. I mean, you've got to spend a lot. I'll tell you though, the brushes that I like to use, excuse me, that I just don't destroy are those. This is one, but I can't read it anymore. The what's it? Pro Art, I think it's called, from New Jersey, or it's what it is. It's an acrylic filament mixed together with a couple of other nylons or whatever, and it's really stiff, and the hairs never come out of it. And it takes a pounding. I mean, you can really beat these up. They come clean real nice. They hold their shape. This is one, and I've had it forever. I used to use like the hog bristle, you know, but talk about losing hairs. Oh my God, you know, it's like they don't glue them like they used to. So I'm getting a little close to the end here. I'm just gonna I heard that Wolf Kahn always uses brushes from the hardware store. You know, you can go insane with the stuff that you buy. I mean, you can just go nuts. You know, I know people that spend $100 on a brush. Then they're afraid to use it. You know. Same with paint. I mean, Utrecht I think is a decent quality commercial grade. You know, student to professional grade. I've always thought it was good, and a number of other people do too. Now we've got a sky, I think. I mean, it might look like a dog's dinner, I don't know. That's the thing, when you go to paint, you just got to plunge in and do it. Honestly, the fear factor has to go away, because everybody starts a painting and it's like, this could be good, or I could totally turn it a mess. But you have to think to yourself, it's like, I'm going to try and make it work and see what happens. But, you know, Bonnard said that a failed painting is the start of the next painting. Always like that. It's like, oh, paint over. It's what I'm getting at is that you're trying to get so precious about things. And I think with plein air painting, I think one of the things that stumbles people sometimes is you go out there with this idea that I'm going to make a painting in ink, you know? Like I'm going to really make the painting of paintings. And it's like, no, you're not, don't try to make a picture. Just paint like what's there, you know. I think Turner said that too. It's like, or Constable. It's like just that air, you know. I also wanted to mention, you know, when you're outside, when you're looking at something, your vision, it's about 160 degrees to see, you know, out here. But when you're looking at something, it's about like shoulder width wide. That's what you can see, right? So imagine that's the border of your painting. And then that's 60 degrees. Inside that 60 degrees, they say you can only really focus on about 2% of it. So you could make your accent and stuff rather small if you get everything else softened enough to you know, blend away, not attract too much attention. So I'm trying to pull this stuff down because I don't really want any sort of loud things up there. But I tend to, I mean, if I do something this large outside, I'll fight with it and I'll go back and repaint it and stuff. But what I like to do though is, like I said, there's places out near Granville that are certain spots that, you know, you don't really need a permission from anybody because they're public land type things. I was out once taking photographs and I saw this school bus come down the road I was on. I'm out on this back road kind of thing. And it turned into a turnaround and then pulled out, and I thought, that's county land. I could sit on that. So that's where I moved, you know, and I did a number of paintings because it had this great view, this rolling hills and stuff. I know people go out and, you know, hike in the Colorado hills and all that kind of stuff, but, you know, I don't know. I'll let someone else do that, you know, like National Geographic. Or like going to really exotic places. I don't know about you, but you go someplace amazing, you know, even Kiowa or someplace, you're like, oh, while you get there, you're not really in sync with the landscape or in sync with the light or anything. But people want to go and paint the turquoise waters of Turks and Caicos or something, which is great. I mean, my advice would be go out early in the morning, get the sun coming up, fart around all day till sunset, go back out and get some photos or make some paintings or something. Because you're at the beach, right? So like, why worry? But let's see if this is gonna do anything. Kind of like a haze I'm trying to get to. All right, now I'll just address some of this stuff down here because it's a little rough. So I've got a roadway here, you know, not a roadway, a dirt road, you might say, and it's, you know, sort of tannish or whatever, but it's getting a little, you know, feel of a little bit of pink coming down on it. So I'll make it sort of a grayish pink. Anything that's in the light, I'll do it a grayish pink tone. And one of the things about sunset paintings is one of the best things is to turn around and face away from it, because it'll be lighting up all these trees, but there'll be shadows cutting them in half. If you know my work, I like to do that a lot. But like for example, when the sun's all the way down, the ground color tends to go toward a bluish tone. Fill up the holes here. Make sure you cover everything, folks, as a professional artist. Because I've had to drive out to people's houses and paint about that much of a painting that was left like blues. It's like, well, contemporary art, you know, it's like, no, Actually, it was kind of fun, but you know, it's like signing them and stuff. I forget to do that all the time. And I'm actually out of titles, I think. I mean, I've used them all: dusk, sunset, morning, evening, afternoon. One year I tried calling them just by weird names, and I don't know if people got it or not. But I named them after guitar colors, like Fiesta Red and Fire Glow and Lake Placid Blue. I don't know if anybody got that. I even did a thing once where I had done a lot of models and kimonos and things. I found all these great post-work kimonos in a shop and kind of went nuts and bought them all. And so I had someone translate the titles into Japanese, just like, so it's like, ooh. There again, he was, well, what does that really mean in Japanese? I'm like, I don't know, really. Something about the sun coming up, But I'm pretty ignorant with languages. I barely can speak English. But I always liked the sound of Japanese. Very beautiful sounding language, I think. Okay, so I'm kind of just playing here a little bit, filling out some holes. I may work on this some more when I get home, get it back to the studio. Is it raining or something?
No, it's our blower system, our HVAC.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sounds, when it rains in my studio,
Yeah,
that's what it sounds
sure.
like. The cat's kind of running everywhere.
Unfortunately, we turn it off, it turns off the air in the lobby too.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Yeah, that would not make them happy. How are we doing for time?
It is 12:14.
Oh, so we got a little bit to do, I guess. on there. So I'll put stuff in and then I'll take it back out when I get something on there. So I don't really want to draw attention to the field or even the road that bad, to tell you the truth. Getting close to that frame again, all right. Here's a tip, if you do get paint on a frame, those Mr. Clean things, whatever they're called, the like scrubber, they take paint off the frame without damaging the frame. I mean, I think that's a personal touch, but not everybody agrees. By the way, if you want to really see a masterpiece, we have a Titian in Columbus right now till December 9th. It's only the Titian. It's not like a big show from this German museum. It's one painting. But there's only 300 Titians roughly that we know about. This one's only been in the United States once before. And this is the first time it's been in the Midwest. So, hey, go down and see it. It's probably, they always say, who's the Misty Woman? I've looked at Titian did a bunch of these portraits. It's his daughter. It's like, hey, you, stand there. I'm thinking like his son was one of his assistants, but I bet you his daughter's working there too. Like, you know how to grind paint? Well, you gotta learn. But,
Is that the museum?
well, usually, yeah, it's at the museum. It costs $6 to get in. So I was a little bit like, $6. There's like one room. And, but there is something interesting that they don't mention, and is that they have a Joshua Reynolds in there. And I wrote an article about it for Cities, and I can tell you, Reynolds was one of these guys, like a lot of 17th and 18th century painters. The workshop tradition had gone. They didn't have the guilds that much, or how to really learn how to do stuff in a workshop. So, and the commercial paint industry was building up, so he'd make up all these concoctions that were just awful. But at the time, like, well, the paint just glows like this, and then later on it would turn into alligator tears or whatever. And one of the noted people for having secret recipes and stuff was Joshua Reynolds. And there's a painting by him in this little show, and it looks terrible because it's probably falling apart. It's probably nowhere near what it used to look like. A lot of his paintings have delaminated and the colors faded and all this kind of stuff. But the Titian's pretty amazing. It's actually been tinkered with quite a bit over the years, repainted and things. So I think when they, if it seems a little pale, I think it's because when they cleaned it eventually for the last time, they really skinned it, that is taking off all the glazes, all of them. I think there was probably a warmish yellow ochre kind of wash over the face and on the light parts of the dress. But, You rub it off, it's gone. So, should I put a little white house in there? I guess. It won't be white though. Ooh. There really isn't a house there, but right, you know. And then there's a little pot of flowers out in front, and a tractor with a man on it wearing a fur hat, and you know.
Fur hat?
Well, it's, you know, maybe he's an Orthodox or something, but that's something that drives me crazy about quote unquote plein air magazine and plein air painting. It's like, God, every freaking painting is like, there's a bucket of flowers out front, and you know, a water wheel. Like, how many water wheels have you ever seen in Ohio, right? But like a water wheel and a little girl in her bare feet going into the barn. Anybody grow up on a farm? You never wear bare feet when you're going out into the thing. It's like, I know it's cute looking, but they usually have the big ugly mud things, you know, what do they call those in England? Wellies. But you know, it's like all this crap going on. It's like, see, it's really cute picture. It's like, there's one guy that every picture has a barn in it. I mean, you could be in Alaska, it's like, oh, look, there's a red barn. And it's because I used to be an architect and I can draw barns like a bat out of hell. I don't know. But when I see cutesy poo things, I just think it's like unnecessary. Just looking at something and looking at something and seeing it and experiencing it. And I mean, when you go out, feel the wind, feel the temperature. What is the smell? What does it remind you of? Does it give you a memory? See, that's what the painting is. That's what you're trying to convey. Not like, oh, there's, all this stuff around to make it look cute. And I know it's like, well, you just don't like plein air painting, but or outdoor painting, as I like to call it. But even this, putting in a little thing here is kind of my little touch. But let's see if I can get some more of that red in there.
So do you think you have greater success if you paint that which is familiar to you?
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, every sky is amazing. I mean, it's great to go to like Venice or something and whatever, but it's let the Venetians paint their light. You have to say, oh, that looks like crap. I think it makes a lot of difference to be familiar with the place. If you happen to live in the Rockies, great, or the Tetons or something, yeah. And there are painters who travel like out to those places who really do a good job with it. I don't really like to travel very much. I can't do any work while I'm traveling. So, but yeah, I mean, you might think of the art world as divided in half, at least in the realist painting world, in that the Western art world is like another world of art. None of this stuff would sell out there because they've got these vistas and mountains and all sorts of stuff. It's, the galleries carry different things and it's a different field. You get much stronger colors in some areas. Like you ought to see the sky in like Santa Fe. Wow, it's really like cobalt blue. And they have these mountains near Santa Fe that they call the Blood of Christ Mountains. Well, it's in Spanish, but I'll just tell you what it is, Blood of Christ. Because when the sun sets, these mountains just turn scarlet. And that's like, wow. Because you're up, maybe three-quarters of a mile up, something like that. I don't know how high it is, but so you see farther, first of all, because you're standing up high. But you're also closer to the blue part of the sky, I like to think, But the light's very strong out there. So I don't know, I think we'll call this mess done for now.
Well, it's not a mess, Michael. It's quite lovely. Is anybody? Oh my gosh. It would take me a lifetime to make that mess and probably or more.
Well, let me stand up for a second. Take a look.
Does anybody have any questions for Michael
Yeah.
as we wrap things up?
And if you want information about some of the stuff I've talked about, just email me. It's mmcq.com, live.com. Or you can go to my website and maybe they'll get a message there. But actually, just go to Facebook and ask me. You know, I actually have a Facebook page, and nobody ever leaves any messages. And then what?
In that magazine?
Oh yeah, well I write a column every month called The Painter's Eye for Columbus City Scene magazine, which is free, but I don't pay. It's a free ad. I don't get paid for it, just in case you don't know. But I'm actually in. Is it this month's issue? Yeah, I'm actually in until the end of October. 'Cause I'm doing a show out at Nemacolin Resort, okay, and with the hope that, like, you know, billionaires are like, oh, I need those for my new house. I mean, it's the right demographic because it's expensive as places to go there. And I'll actually be there next week doing a little artist talk and a demonstration. And I may have 5 people or 2 people or nobody, I don't know. But I'll be doing some Pennsylvania landscapes for that, I think, because it's really pretty out there. But yeah, if you want information, you know, about, I've got things I can send you to. Some good websites are, look up something called the Reilly Papers. Okay, it's a blogspot thing, but just enter Reilly Papers and it'll come up. And it's what it is this great teacher named Frank Reilly, who studied at the Art Students League and, you know, knew about Henry and all these guys and stuff. But he wanted to figure out a way that you could actually teach painting, so he made his whole thing up where he used to say that he could teach like almost anybody to paint, and that was his thing, and he was extremely popular. He had like 70 cases of notes that he was always going to like write a book, but he died at like 58 or something like that. And there's a guy, John Ennis, I think his name, he's a portrait artist. He, through another guy that used to teach under Reilly, and he's got the notes. It's like he put a lot of them up. It's a whole schedule of things that you could do, exercises and so forth, but that's a great site. But if you want to write me, I'll give you some good sites. There are a lot of books you can just, are free books. Like this one's free. Frank Morley Fletcher, Color Control. If you could weed your way through that, or read it and then come and take a class with me and I'll explain it. the thing with really old books sometimes is that they're written in kind of an arcane sort of scientific style. It's kind of hard to understand, but Denman Ross books are free pretty much on the internet. There's a website in England called Forgotten Books or Lost Books. Okay, they have a ton of stuff. They're just things that fell out of print, you know. And they talk about color and different things like that and so forth.
Is it R-I-L-E or R-I-L?
Oh, Reilly is R-E-I-L-L-Y. I think, well, you know, you'll see it.
R-E-I-L-L-Y.
R-E-I.
R-E-I-L-L-Y.
Like Reilly. You know. I mean, I know there's 2 ways to do it, but anyways,
Michael, thank you.
Yeah.
Very, very much for joining us
I hope
today.
this was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming, and I'll spend the next hour trying to clean up here. I may, when I get it home.
Because you know what, when I look at that